What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different to what you guys are probably used to on the channel. Now today I am actually going to be creating my own Thorpe Park poster. Now recently I've got a graphics tablet which has enabled me to do Photoshop a lot easier, so yeah, I thought I'd take the opportunity to make this video. It's a video I've been really wanting to do for quite a while now, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So if you guys do go on to enjoy it, make sure to like, subscribe, anything that makes me know you guys like my content. We are very close to hitting 700 subs. I'm not going to beg for subs because that's just a bit, awkward. However, yeah, it would be much appreciated if you do subscribe, and thank you to everyone who actually has. So, with all that said, let's get right into the video. Okay then, so obviously here I'm starting off with one of my favourite pictures I've actually ever taken at a theme park period, and that is obviously Stealth. Now I actually took this picture a while back. It was last year, I think, during the summer months, and yeah, it was just a lovely day, lovely evening, and yeah, I managed to get this cool picture of Stealth. So the main thing you're going to be seeing me doing here for the first minute or two of the video is actually forcing images. Now obviously you can see me adding this kind of paintbrush stroke there to the top left hand corner, and you'll see in a second that I'll actually add another image into the photo. Like, there you go, that's a picture of the swarm I've taken, and what I'm going to do with it is I'm actually going to force it into that image of the paintbrush stroke. Now obviously this will then give the effect that that is in the top left hand corner. Obviously I'm going to be adding After Effects to each of the little pictures I'm going to be adding, but the main thing I actually really wanted to do with this was to have these kind of paint stroke kind of images of 4 coasters around the outside of Stealth, kind of symbolising all the coasters, or all the major coasters at least, at Thorpe Park at the moment. As you can see, I've left a little bit of a gap at the bottom there as well. Obviously, as you can see in the Stealth picture, it kind of fades to black a little bit, so obviously I'll be using some techniques later on to kind of help that fade properly into black, and then I'll have the text at the bottom there. But you can obviously see me doing the same technique I did on the left hand one, but with this cool picture I got of saws, obviously blades. This is pretty easy to do. This didn't really take me too long, but generally I kind of regretted not grouping these all together because it's kind of a bit of a pain when I was trying to edit it a little bit later on. But yeah, that's just how that kind of had to go, to be fair. But yeah, so obviously, like I said, there'll be effects going on each of these. So obviously the swarms will be like dirt and stuff like that. Obviously saws will be blood. Colossus is going to be sand. And then I'm pretty sure I put a fire effect there. Obviously you can try and see me fiddling around with some of the blending options there. I accidentally clicked texture. Obviously that kind of looks like the Smile logo, or the little swirl that you get in the Smile marketing. But I tried kind of adjusting the lighting, but it didn't really change for me at the bottom. But I did actually realise that if I just put some images over obviously the bottom 2 corners of that image, it should give the effect that obviously, it's kind of fading into that blackness. So I didn't really worry about that too much after this. I was just fiddling around with some settings and none of it really worked properly. So yeah, I just decided to just carry on, keep adding the pictures into the corners, and yeah, hope that it obviously blends in nicely, which it actually did. I think I'm really proud of this piece of art that I've actually made. Obviously I've made loads of these different things. I've made Fright Nights ones, I've made Norton Towers one. So yeah, if you do want to see any other kind of like Photoshop poster things like this in the future, definitely let me know, because I did really enjoy making this. And yeah, so yeah, so you can see me adding in, I'm pretty sure this is Colossus one. Obviously this one I kind of had to edit on my phone, just to try and make it a little bit lighter, because I actually took this on quite a dark day. Obviously the Swarm and the Saw one are quite lighter days, they were taken in the summer. This one was taken more in like Fright Nights kind of time, so it was kind of a bit dull and dark, obviously as we started going into winter. However, I did actually manage to kind of brighten it in After Effects, as you see there, but it still looks pretty decent. I do actually do a lot of adjusting with these pictures later on, especially Colossus and Nemesis, so I tried to get them into the right position that obviously lended them perfectly to how I actually wanted to showcase the riders. So I think I'm extending that brush stroke out a little bit in a minute. Possibly that could be what I'm doing here now. But yeah, all I did there was just extend it out just to kind of get the bigger photo of Colossus in there. I did actually kind of cut out the shrubbery, which I didn't actually realise until like a couple of minutes before I was actually ending the actual photo itself. So I do actually move that kind of picture of Colossus up in a second. Well, not in a second, it'll be in a couple of minutes. But yeah, and obviously this final one is actually Nemesis. And I actually kind of struggled to find a picture I've got of Nemesis, because I usually take quite a few videos of it. But I did manage to get kind of a wide shot that I did make of Nemesis in there. So yeah, it wasn't, the best picture, but obviously it beats kind of, anything else I really had on my camera roll. So there you go. So that's the last kind of coaster I'm going to be adding. That took nice and quickly. This kind of sped up 2 times speed. So yeah, like I said, it didn't really take me too long. It took me about 10 minutes max to do this bit. But yeah, you'll see me in a second, like I said, adding the After Effects. This was fairly easy, it's just standard kind of effect stuff. But I actually did decide to flip that brush stroke on the Colossus bit round, because I kind of like that end effect that it had, where it kind of looks like it strokes outwards. And like I said, I do fiddle around with these a little bit later, so don't expect this to be the final position and everything. But yeah, I just kind of thought it looks a little bit better like that, and it kind of made it feel more like they're kind of parallel in a way. But yeah, that's kind of the way I wanted to go with that. So obviously now this is the point where I'm going to be adding in the different effects. So obviously you can see me adding the dirt effect there. I accidentally deactivated the forced image for Colossus there, because it kind of put it in the middle of the timeline thing. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to have kind of dirt for Swarm. Actually later on did actually add an explosion in there, but I thought just to start off with I'd see what it looks like with the dirt. And then kind of just really tiny details that kind of just make it look a lot more cooler. Obviously Swarm's the one that's kind of less noticeable, because obviously it's dirt. That's the reason why I actually decided to add the explosion in. But things like Saw you're seeing at the moment, me adding the blood, that really did kind of make a difference. I thought that looked really cool. And I actually didn't really think I was going to do something like this for the video. I just thought I'd kind of add the images in like that. But obviously I did realise it actually makes the images look more like they belong there, and it kind of makes it look more like a poster when I kind of have the effects. And I do actually end up putting like blood splatters behind the actual kind of picture of Saw there. I don't know whether I'll do it here or whether I'll do it later on, because I know I did actually kind of, like I said, add different effects a little bit later on down the line. I did also obviously add the Swarm one, so that might have been a little bit later. But yeah, obviously it does make it look a little bit cooler. And see, I'm just adjusting these photos again, because I don't know what it was about the Nemesis and the Colossus photo, but I just couldn't get them in the right position. I kept getting annoyed that it just didn't look right. But in the end I actually decided that, you know, it did kind of look pretty decent. I'm pretty sure, yeah, here we go with the Colossus one now. I did actually add sand in for Colossus, because obviously it's kind of themed around like an ancient Atlantis temple, and water didn't really work. I really struggled to kind of fit water into any of this, but you do actually see it a little bit later on when I'm putting the final touches of the poster on. I thought sand really kind of, you know, helped with the temple-y nature of it. And I know it's not, you know, specifically themed to a temple, but it certainly did kind of add that kind of temple aspect to it as well. Now, I did kind of go a little bit overkill on some of these effects, but I do think it did look really, really cool. I'm pretty sure, like I said, I put effects behind the images as well as in front of it. Obviously, I had to line it up perfectly, because obviously the bottom of the effects were kind of straight, so I kind of had to line it up on the brush stroke itself, just to kind of help it kind of blend in a little bit. But yeah, then the Nemesis one was a little bit more difficult. I kind of just added, you know, different fire effects and things like that. But the Colossus one was probably by far the one that looked the best. That and I think the Swarm, after obviously, you know, I did the explosion on the Swarm. But yeah, it kind of looks like it's a snowstorm or a sandstorm. Why did I say snowstorm? That just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it does look very, very cool, and I did put some sand behind it, which I think I'm doing right now, if I'm not mistaken. The thing is, with like my screen recording software, when I screen record Photoshop, I cannot actually see the file I'm bringing up, so I can't exactly see what I'm bringing onto the screen next. But I'm assuming, oh no, I must have had that in a little bit later. Like I said, I added loads of different things later. It's a little bit messy, but it does eventually look good. Now, I did actually come up with the idea to kind of add the dust effect in there, obviously, that I used on the Swarm, as well as the kind of burning cinder effect on there, and I think that came out really, really well. The image for Nemesis does actually look really weird. I didn't actually do any, you know, heavy effects on that, but obviously that does look better as it goes on. I mean, I think that's just something that was a side effect of just putting any filter on it, really. But yeah, as you can see, I'm adding the Thorpe Park logo in here, looking very, very snazzy there. Obviously, you know, the whole point of the middle picture was the fact that it was a sunset, and I thought it looked really, really cool, and it does look like something Thorpe Park would try to use. So I tried adding like this lens flare in the background, just behind the Thorpe Park logo, to kind of have it shining behind it, just to kind of make that the kind of predominant middle piece of the poster. And I do actually kind of add some things in the middle of where those kind of, you know, coaster pictures are added around the side. So the left and the right side of that kind of Thorpe Park logo will have different things on there, but you'll see that a little bit later. I can't actually see what I'm doing at the moment. I keep forgetting what I actually did at this point. Here we go, yeah, it's the text. So I experimented with text a little bit. Obviously, I knew that I wanted to add like the island, like no other text in there somewhere, but I couldn't really figure out the font, and this just looked ridiculous. The positioning of it was really bad, but don't worry, like at the end of it, it does look really good. And it did take a lot of messing around with the text, but I think eventually it did kind of, you know, bode well, and it did actually end up being pretty sick. So obviously, like I said, I'm testing out those different fonts here, so I know this is the final thing. I was just trying to correct it a little bit. But yeah, as you can see, you know, this is not the most experienced, like, you know, poster someone's probably ever made, but I did have really good fun with it. So like I said, definitely let me know if you want to see any other posters. I could do posters for rides. If you guys are interested in that, I'd love to do something like that. Like I said, this is my hobby at the moment, really, other than YouTube, is doing stuff on Photoshop. Obviously, I recently got my graphics tablet, so you know, ask away. If you really want me to do other stuff like this, definitely let me know, because I am enjoying it. Now, obviously, later on down the line, we do kind of separate these two lines of text into two separate kind of layers. What that means is that, as you can see with the text I've got here, the beginning of the text on the top is parallel to the beginning of the bottom, so it kind of makes it look really weird with the end of it. So what I eventually did was I added the top half as a certain layer, and then what I did with that layer is I then centered that in the middle of the bottom section, and it kind of then allowed it to look more symmetrical. You see, I've tried to experiment with a bit of water there, and I do actually add that in later on, but you know, at the time it didn't really look that great. But yeah, obviously you can see now that it starts to make a little bit more sense. But this was kind of filmed over 2 days, so this was actually filmed last night for me, and I finished the rest of it this morning. So I was kind of getting to the stage where I was just like, oh my god, like, you know, I don't know whether any of you guys out there have ever experienced this, but when you're kind of working on something for a long time, your eyes start to go numb about it, so you don't really notice, you don't really feel creative really. But obviously I woke up in the morning, gave it a fresh look with some fresh eyes after I've been to sleep for 8 hours, and yeah, and I kind of realised that effect did actually work. So I kind of settled on the right font here. I just wanted this bold font kind of thing. So as you can see, I've tried to put it next to or you know, just above and below the actual Thorpe Park logo itself, but it didn't really work. Obviously the blending between the colours in the background and the colour that the text is really didn't make it, you know, look any better. It just kind of made it look like it was part of the background, and yeah, it was really hard to read. But what I actually ended up doing was actually putting this text at the bottom. What I originally planned to do was put the text like it is there now, and then have like the date that Thorpe Park opened, and obviously 2020 there at the bottom, just to kind of add the thing. But you know, as it goes, I tried to do that the opposite way around and it didn't really work. So I'm kind of adding in some strobe lights here. I thought they looked really cool. I thought they kind of symbolised the sort of X side of Thorpe Park, obviously when X was there, and obviously you had the Island Beats ages ago, so it kind of looked pretty cool the way I did this. I'll try to add them behind like the Saw and the Swarm photo, but A, it kind of took it away from the stealth photo, and B, it kind of looked better on the black background. It didn't really kind of work on the middle section because it kind of didn't really kind of, you know, contrast properly. But I'm here adding in some more blood effects for Saw. Like I said, I put this behind the actual picture to make it look like a spray. I did really like, you know, and you know, experimenting with these different effects. I thought it was really cool. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the extent I did for that. But like I said, I added a bit more dirt for the Swarm, just to kind of make it look a little bit more 3D, like it's kind of exploding out of the initial picture itself onto kind of the, you know, middle section where stealth is. And I thought that kind of made it look more like an actual poster Thorpe Park would do, because obviously they love their kind of, you know, really themed posters, and having that 3D effect of it kind of popping out the photo, I thought really boded well with what I was trying to go for. So obviously you see me adding more sand here with Colossus. Like I said, it's really difficult to do the Colossus sand in a way that obviously the thing kind of had like a straight line on the edges and it didn't really work very well, but eventually I kind of settled on something that, you know, blended in enough that you wouldn't really notice it unless you properly looked into it. But yeah, obviously it's a similar effect to the stuff I did with the Swarm and that, just placed it underneath the actual photo and then decided to just kind of have that there. Now this is interesting, I actually tried to do here. I actually tried to get another paintbrush thing here and just kind of have it as like a background for the initial text. So I really got into the idea of having that text in the middle there. Obviously, you know, having this kind of red paintbrush effect did look cool, but I thought with what I wanted to do, it looked really out of place and it was kind of stopping me doing effects on the left and the right side of the logo. But I did eventually kind of mess around with the text a little bit more and find obviously the better spot. I really actually tried to, you could tell how insane I started to get. I tried to just fill the whole bottom part with the red paint strokes and it really did not work. But obviously the text I fiddled around with a lot. Like generally to get the text right, it took a lot of time just for the positioning. So you will see a lot of this change a little bit later on. I tried to make it smaller. There's something about it just didn't look right. I couldn't really put my finger on it until obviously I placed it at the bottom where I thought, its contrast was the main thing that it was lacking. And obviously this did give it contrast, which I really liked this, but it didn't really have a good effect on like the pictures below it. And I did actually try and fix that a little bit later, and it took ages to transfer all those effects and pull all those effects down a little bit, just to kind of give the kind of paint stroke a little bit more room. And yeah, it was just a lot of messing about to get this text right. yeah, it just wasn't great. I tried putting it over the two pictures, and I tried putting it under. It just didn't really work for me. But yeah, obviously I did actually, you know, settle on something that did look pretty cool. And yeah, you'll see in a second. I don't want to start talking about something that hasn't been shown on the screen yet, because I know it's coming and I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But yeah, obviously it did take a long time. Obviously this is something that actually didn't take me too long to do. I was actually really surprised how little time it took me to make this poster. Like I said, it took me last night, or yesterday evening should I say, and then it obviously took me about an hour to half an hour this morning to do, so it wasn't exactly the worst thing in the world, but then again obviously it does take a little bit of time, and the more I kind of do this sort of Photoshop stuff, the more I will add more details in. Obviously I'm not exactly the most experienced Photoshop person in the world, obviously there's still a lot of stuff about Photoshop I haven't actually learnt, so once I start learning more skills, you know, obviously the quality of this and the time it takes will obviously, you know, be heightened a little bit, and that's why I say to you guys, you know, if you do want to see like ride posters, I'm willing to do that because I'll learn some new skills through it, and obviously it'll be more detailed, and I just kind of wanted to do this video as a tester video to see whether you guys would like that sort of content, because yeah, it's something I'm totally up for doing. So obviously you can see me once again pulling down these two images to try and fit that paintbrush. So I now look at it this morning when I'm actually recording this now. It doesn't look overly bad in the position it is, but I knew that it could be better. And that's something I've actually kind of experienced while making this. I look at something and I think, yeah, that's fine, but it could be better. And I think that's something that made the final look of the poster really stand out and really, you know, cool. So I kind of had to just individually transfer these effects down, which is the main reason I was annoyed I didn't group it. For those of you that don't really know about grouping on Photoshop, pretty much if you group, so say for example if I grouped all of that cloth stuff together, like the sand, the image, the paint stroke, I would be able to click on that group, move them all together, but because I didn't do that, I had to move each and every one of them individually, and yeah, it was annoying to say the least, and I do actually end up moving it back up again. So whenever I do future projects like this, I'm going to make sure to do the grouping, just to save me that mental pain of having to individually drag each of the photos down a bit. So as we move into the next one here then, or the next kind of slide I kind of wanted to break like the footage up into sections just so I could kind of get my bearings and think a little bit about what I wanted to do. So yeah, you can see me actually getting rid of that kind of red paint stroke. Like I said, it was just causing loads of problems for me. It didn't really work out, and I actually kind of came up with the idea of just putting the text at the bottom, because obviously it's white bold text, so obviously it will contrast a lot better on a black background, which is why I actually decided to move it to the bottom, because it stands out a lot more, and B, I can then do a little bit more stuff freely in the middle of the image, and it kind of makes it look a little bit better in that respect. So other than that, I think most of the effects I put in are good. Obviously I've still got to do the swarm explosion like I said about that earlier, but I really did like the way I went with this text, because actually here I was able to kind of resize it to a bigger font, and because it was bigger, it made it, you know, like I said, stand out more. It made it kind of like the trademark thing of the actual kind of art itself. Now, I really don't think this would have worked, to be fair, without that stealth picture. I'm really proud of that. It was such a nice day that. It was in the summer. I can remember going with my cousin. There was like the MTV kind of club thing going on outside the Ghost Train. It was just a really nice atmosphere in the summer. I think visiting Thorpe Park in the summer is one of the best things you can do, obviously other than Friday nights. Friday nights is in the God tier section for that. Obviously that is generally the best time to visit Thorpe Park. But in the summer it's just such a nice atmosphere, and it's a shame we may not actually be able to go there this summer, but obviously we can always go there next year, so you know, I don't really feel like it's impacting me too much not going this year. If that eventually does come to the reality of actually happening, obviously I'm very much happy to just wait until next year and have a full season. We can have fun. But as you can see here, I finally moved the Colossus image up a little bit to show the hedges. Obviously I think it looks so much better like that, and I think the problem with the Nemesis and the Coloss photo is the fact that the sky is showing a little bit too much, and obviously with those filters being on it, it really made that sky look a little bit too bright in my opinion, but like I said, it did work, and obviously adding the sand and the effects in there did help with that, because it kind of actually covered it up a little bit. But yeah, so literally, like I said, this is me literally just pulling everything down from that Colossus image, or pushing it back up, should I say, individually. A very grueling process that took me at least 10 minutes to do, I'm pretty sure. But here you can see I'm actually sizing the images again, or the text, should I say. And yeah, you can see it looks a lot better in the positioning it is. yeah, I just think it looks really cool where it is. Like, I was trying to find out workarounds to have it in the middle of the screen, but like I said, it was just making it a lot of effort to do. And not only that, it also stopped what I wanted to do with the rest of the middle image. I know I keep repeating that, but that is something that was very, very important to me, as I really wanted to keep that middle image clear, or at least as clear as I possibly can, just to kind of give that's the kind of money shot that the poster's actually going for. I accidentally, created the thing here. I tried to add in the dates. Like I said, you can see me 1978 to 2020, but I tried putting that below. You can just see it just really doesn't work, and I didn't really find anywhere else to fit it in. Obviously, I didn't want any outlines on this text either, so I find that Thorpe could actually generally use this kind of bold text before, and it never really had an outline on it. So to make it look authentic, I tried to keep it as obviously bold and as white as possible, but eventually I just ended up getting rid of the dates because it didn't really work. So we move in here now, and I'm fairly sure this one, the last piece of footage I got of me making the poster, and I'm fairly sure this could be the time where I actually eventually add in obviously the swarm explosion somewhere. I'm fairly sure. Yep, here we go. Now the swarm explosion was something quite interesting to work with, because initially I kind of wanted it in the middle of the billboard, so like the billboard's been smashed open, but then I kind of experimented, and if you kind of have it off screen, it looks like the explosion's kind of gone to the side of the billboard, and I thought that looked really, really cool. Now you can see me finally adding the water effects in here. Now there's a reason why I wanted to add the water effects in, is because that middle image really symbolizes the summer, and I kind of wanted to add water in, because obviously Thorpe do have quite a big arsenal of water rides. Obviously they have, the Rumble Rapids, obviously Tidal Wave, they used to have Logger's Leap, but I think that's really something they were marketing this year with obviously Supercharged Summer, and yeah, I kind of wanted to translate that over into my poster as well, and I'm pretty sure, other than the finishing touches, that is pretty much it for my image. I'm fairly certain I didn't add anything else in. I think, no, I added a little bit more dirt in. I actually tried adding some dirt into the Colossus image, and I thought that looked pretty cool. The dirt image was really, really fun to work with as well, having that on each of the things. And now I think about it, I could have actually used it on Saw, but, I think Saw looked kind of good on its own. It didn't really need anything more than the blood, I don't think. But yeah, I'm fairly certain I did actually, yeah, here we go. And this is something that I actually really liked. I actually put the sunset again behind the actual text. And I actually got rid of this a little bit later, but I kind of stopped the video before I get to that point, because I feel like this is the best possible poster I could have made. You obviously have the sunset behind the actual text, and initially I thought, oh, it looked like I've just copy and pasted the sun twice, but it doesn't actually. It looks kind of like it's something separate from the image above, and yeah, it gives it this really cool effect, and I've kind of actually felt that the blackness behind the text was actually really empty, but here we are then. This is the initial final product of the poster. Like I said, if you guys really like this video, definitely let me know. Definitely leave the video a like so I can kind of judge whether or not to do anything like this in the future. So, with all that said, guys, I will see you guys in the next one.